was March the 15th, and American fighter jets were taking off to launch a fresh series of airstrikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen. The attacks on the capital in Sana'a were ordered by President Trump and, we now know, were discussed days and hours before by top White House officials in a group chat on a messaging app called Signal that also included, accidentally, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine. That senior officials, including the Vice President, the National Security Advisor and the Secretary of Defense, would share highly sensitive, imminent war plans on an encrypted but unsecured chat app is a stunning security breach in and of itself. That they inadvertently invited a journalist onto the chat that became the basis of his blockbuster headline and story merely compounds the error tenfold. But there was no apology from Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, who immediately went on the offensive, attacking the journalist Jeffrey Goldberg instead.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again.
Then denying details of the imminent attack were shared at all.
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans.
The Atlantic's editor-in-chief knows what was said because he'd been invited onto the message group 4 days before by the National Security Advisor, Michael Waltz.
When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening. I didn't publish this, and I continue not to publish it because it felt like it was too confidential.
But he did include a lot of other detail, including messages that show there was some pushback about the planned Houthi attacks from the Vice President, who said, "I think we are making a mistake. There's a real risk the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary." Then addressing the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, he said, "If you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again." To which Hegseth replied, "I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic." Then after the attack, more messages, including this emoji-filled reply from the National Security Advisor. Simply a fist bump, an American flag, and fire. President Trump initially said he knew nothing about the scandal.
I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
But today insisted he stood by his team.
There has been no recognition of the gravity of this error.
Unfortunately for them, 2 of the senior officials on the chat group appeared before a Senate committee today, though they tried to downplay the security breach.
There was no classified material that was shared in that
So then if there was no classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security.
Senator, I'll reiterate that there was no classified material that was shared.
Classified or not, war plans are usually considered top secret and as such are ordinarily only shared in person, typically in secure rooms so that no one can listen in.
This should never be been done on a text chain over Signal. It's just nuts.
What does it say about the competence
of these officials? They're reckless and they're careless.
How serious is it? Should heads roll?
It's terrible. And yes, people should be fired and people should resign. If people had even a little tiny bit of honor and sense of responsibility, then Secretary Hegseth would tender his resignation this morning.
The Democrats are desperate to take this scandal and run with it. But the likelihood of anyone resigning is next to zero. And with Donald Trump dismissing the breach as a glitch, it seems the Republican plan is to deny and move on. Well, Donald Trump is speaking right now, still ongoing in the White House as he's just signed some executive orders. He has reiterated that there was no classified information shared on this WhatsApp. I mean, the group. He says that many people use the app in the government and media. That is true. Many people do use the Signal, I should say, app, but not typically to discuss top secret war plans. He said that his national security advisor, Mike Waltz, was a good person. Mike Waltz himself was also in the room. He, of course, is the man who invited the editor of The Atlantic onto that group, yet he claimed in the room just now that he didn't know how the journalist had got into the group at all. He said that he didn't know him, and he said that the journalist was simply trying to make everybody discuss yet another hoax. The gist, of course, of this, they said, was this was all good publicity, they claimed, for The Atlantic magazine, and it simply was not true. The allegations were not true. They are trying very much to brush this under the carpet, but as you saw in my piece there, the Democrats on the Hill have finally found something to get their teeth into. They are furious about this. They are calling for resignations, and it is not something that they are going to let go anytime soon.
Siobhan, no such thing as a dull day in Washington. Thank you very much indeed.